So I've been thinking about and reflecting on some of the projects I've been involved with over the last however many years, and this is one from over 20 years ago. And been thinking about what would I change if I was doing it now with all the new technologies that have come through, the changes in how we do training and stuff like that. How would I deal with it? So the problem we had was we were pulling together a field force, a short-term field force that was going out to do a specific role just over the course of 1 year. We had to train about 65,000 people, but we knew that in that process, about 30,000 of those would drop out of the process for one reason or another. And we had about 6 months to do the training before it was needed to be put into practice. There were several criteria that we had to follow. The main one was the problem was we had to reduce the errors in the field force. So we had to make sure that the questions that they asked people were correct, that the responses they were giving were correct, that the way they dealt with people were correct. There were a whole series of legal reasons around this. It had to be done right. The solution had to be assured in that it had to be approved by the subject matter experts. It had to be highly available. We had to make sure that these 65,000 people that were going through training weren't going to be locked out of training because the server had gone down for some reason. It had to be integrated with the recruitment process as well. So it had to be a seamless flow of data and people through the process of recruitment into learning and then back into recruitment. You'll see how it works in a minute. It had to be reliable. We didn't want it going down at key points. And it was a public sector project, therefore it had to be low cost. We had to keep the costs to a minimum. That's not saying it was low cost, it had to be as low as possible there. So this was the original solution. As I've said there, it was built on Moodle. Our part, the bits in yellow that you're seeing there, were the learning solution, and the online part of that was built on Moodle. At the time, it was the busiest Moodle site in the world, with 65,000 people going through it in the space of a few months. But let me talk you through the process. You can see on the left hand side we've got this filter as we take people in through recruitment. Into phase one, they go through a quick and easy recruitment phase to get them into the training. And then as part of the recruitment, they'd be doing some online training and some assessments. This was quite straightforward. SCORM packages hosted inside Moodle. I think we may have had some quizzes, some Moodle quizzes in there. In today's terms, it was quite low tech. At the time, it was quite high tech, but it was straightforward text with graphics type SCORM packages. Nothing too complicated. We didn't have the budget to do lots of really complicated stuff, and the technology wasn't there at the time either. Those people that were successful as they passed through the training went into the recruitment and selection phase two, which was a bit more intense, and then the people that were selected from that went on to face-to-face training, and that was more it was face-to-face, it was in a classroom, it was with trainers. These people were all over the country, and it was based on classroom scenarios, so they were working through simulated activities. And then when they've got through that, they get out on the job, and then they got on the job support. And all of it was supported by the Field Force manual. So how would I change it now? Well, the big thing that's come in, well, I would say there are two big things that came in. One of them has pretty much been superseded. The first one, if I was doing this 10 years ago, I'd have said, well, let's use more video. Immerse people in video, maybe branching videos. We did this in an NHS project about 10 years or so ago, and that was the approach at the time, to get people immersed in the conversations. And so yes, that's the thing that's gone now. I think not gone, but it's been superseded now by AI. So this is the approach I think I would take now if I was doing this again. Again, you have the initial recruitment, and then there's a process to gradually filter out the people that aren't going to be able to do this and keep in the people that are. And the way I'd be doing that is with a series of conversation-based scenarios. Now, this is what the AI models are, the large language models are brilliant at supporting, is conversation. As long as it's within the realms of the knowledge that they have, then the conversations are safe and good, and it works. So we'd need to feed the large language model with the Field Force manual. That would still be there. That would still be our root core subject matter. It was extensive, so there'd be a lot of information in there going into the large language model, and that would then drive these conversation scenarios. And I've said in there on the slide, it's gradually increasing complexity. You could start off with just text-based scenarios. Even using WhatsApp these days, you can do that, and then you could increase the fidelity of those scenarios, maybe including having audio-based conversations. We're already seeing this happening. And then the highest fidelity, as we get more complicated, is having video-based scenarios, video conversations with. So you're immersing people in a real life, in quotes, conversation with someone. Maybe they're on the doorstep. This is you're having a conversation about the task that you're doing. All of those will gradually will be scored in some way. Obviously, we'd need to work out criteria, and the data from them would be going probably to a learning record store via XAPI, all being analysed, and all those analytics data going back to the Field Force manual as a feedback loop, so you can see where people are making mistakes. You can see where people are having problems, and you start to revise the Field Force manual to make it clearer. And so using that data, they go through selection, and then they get on the job support. And again, that would be a mixture of AI and human, using the large language model driven by the Field Force manual to give them the support they need at the time they need. What do you think? Would this work? It feels like this is where we are now in terms of technology. It feels like it's a scalable solution. You don't need all those classroom training activities, which were the most expensive part of the whole thing. So I'd love to hear your views.